Hey everybody, welcome back to Living Traditions Homestead. Well, we're going to do just a little bit different kind of a video today. We're going to try our hardest not to talk about homesteading, except for just a couple minutes right here in the very beginning of this video. You may notice that we're sitting out in our hay field. Just in the last couple days, we've had all of our hay cut here on our hay field. We're happy to say that we ended up with 90 bales of hay off of our hay field from one cutting, which is absolutely awesome.
We're hoping for a second cutting this year. It's all going to depend on whether or not we have enough rain. But the wonderful neighbor of ours who cuts our hay on the halves, he is hopeful that we'll be able to get a second cutting this year and just provide some extra security in the hay department for our cows over the winter.
Now, the 45 bales that we get to keep out of this should be enough for our cows, considering how many we fed last year. Plus, we have about 12 bales that we saved from last year that we didn't have to feed. So we have quite a bit of hay in the barn going into the winter. But if we could get that second cutting, even if it's less bales, it will be really nice to have that added security and maybe even a little bit of hay to sell if we end up with extra.
But today we decided that it's been a really long time since we've just sat down with you guys and told you about us. We teach you guys about homesteading every video, and we're, serious about that because we love what we do. But it's been a long time since we've just, kind of had a personal video that talks just really about us and our family and our life and things like that. So that's what we're going to do today.
We know that we have a lot of new subscribers in the last couple of years. We haven't really done a video like this since we were really first starting out on YouTube. So hopefully this will answer some of the questions you guys may have about us and about our background and where we grew up, all that kind of stuff. So let's get started. So the first question that we get quite a bit on our YouTube videos and in real life is people ask how old we are. Well, Sarah and I are both 45 years old. I was born in 1975 and Sarah was born in 1976. I was born in December, she was born in January, but she never lets me forget that I'm a lot older than she is.
For 6 weeks, that's all I have. I have 6 weeks for all the old man jokes and you're way older than me and see your eyesight's going or whatever. I've got 6 weeks a year and I take full advantage of that every year.
But the truth is we're only 6 weeks apart. I was born in the middle of December, Sarah was born at the end of January. And again, we're both 45 years old right now.
Yeah, that also means that we graduated high school in the same year in 1994. We grew up listening to the same type of music. We know all about the same, TV shows and stuff from when we were growing up. So we have a lot in common because of that.
Right. Now, we didn't grow up in the same town. In fact, we didn't know each other until after high school. I actually grew up in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, which you may know, Oshkosh B'gosh. Everybody knows Oshkosh B'gosh. That is where it was originally from, and that's where I grew up in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Kind of not in Oshkosh, just outside of Oshkosh, more of a rural area. Although my family wasn't farmers, nobody did what we're doing now, nothing like that. The closest relative that I have that was a farmer was my great-grandparents on my dad's side. They were farmers their entire lives, and I like to think that we're doing a lot of what my great-grandparents would have done.
And I grew up also in Wisconsin, but in a tiny town called Rosendale. When I was there growing up, there were 777 people in that tiny little town. And it was actually a really great little town to grow up in. Anyway, I didn't grow up with farming in my background either. I don't know of really any farmers in our background, but we were surrounded with, the farming community in Rosendale, lots of corn farmers, pig farmers, dairy farmers. So I really did enjoy that type of living.
What's funny is when we first got married and we moved to Arizona, the first apartment complex that we lived in actually had more people than the entire town that Sarah grew up in.
Yeah, that was an awakening there. I was pretty shocked that more people lived in that apartment complex than did in my entire town growing up.
Right.
Yeah. But Kevin had mentioned that we didn't know each other in high school, and that's mostly true, but I've got a story to share with you guys. I actually started noticing Kevin, seeing Kevin like once a year, starting when I was 16. My mom would take me and my sister to see a play around Christmas every year at the University of Wisconsin in Oshkosh. And every year Kevin was in that play. And I remember noticing him the very first time I went to that play. He had long, dark hair, and he dressed in black leather and kind of stayed in the back when he wasn't like on stage in this
I was a
play.
real rebel back in those days. I had hair longer than Sarah's when we first got married.
Yeah, so I always noticed him and was like, ooh, who's that guy? He's kind of mysterious and, you know, he's attractive. So every year I saw him in that play. And then I ended up going to college at the University of Wisconsin in Oshkosh. And that's actually where we met. And I don't think that I told him for probably a couple years that I had been admiring him from afar. For several years before we actually started dating.
Yeah, we actually met, officially met, at a coffee shop that was on the campus of UW Oshkosh. And so that's where we first started hanging out. We were just friends at first, and you know, things kind of snowballed the way that they do. And so that was when we were 19.
Yes.
We dated for about 2.5 years, and then we got married when we were 22 years old.
Yep.
And obviously we've been married ever since.
Yeah. We actually got married before I graduated college. It was shortly after that, I think a semester or so I had left before I graduated.
Right.
So I graduated from the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh with a bachelor's in psychology.
Right. And I actually didn't go to college. I went to a trade school. I actually went to trade school for veterinary technology, or to be a veterinary technician. And so I worked in an animal hospital for quite a few years, even after we first got married.
Right. And after I got my bachelor's degree, I worked with children and adults with developmental disabilities for several years in different capacities and different levels and into management. And then I kind of fell into working in human resources, originally in that industry with children and adults with developmental disabilities, but then just went into HR for different companies before we left corporate America.
Right.
And arrived here.
Right. And I actually ended up being in sales for a while, in medical sales, and then toward the end of my career in government sales, working with government contracts and things like that. So all kinds of stuff, a lot of paperwork that I don't ever want to think about ever again. It's one of the reasons we love being out here in the country and living a more simple life.
Right. And the experience that Kevin got working as a vet tech in the animal hospitals has been so helpful for us in our life here. Anything that we can do here on the homestead ourselves, I know I'm not supposed to be talking about this, but I rely heavily on Kevin when it comes to kind of vet tech kind of stuff.
Right, giving shots, drawing blood,
Right,
I mean, all
absolutely.
of that kind of stuff. I know Sarah and I have actually lived in quite a few different places since we've been married. When we first got married, we lived in Oshkosh, which is where I grew up and where Sarah went to college. She was still in college at the time, like she said. At that time, I actually was managing the coffee shop where we met. I ended up being the manager of that coffee shop while Sarah finished college. After Sarah graduated, we actually moved pretty much as far away from Wisconsin as you could get. We moved to very southern Texas, to the Brownsville area. We actually lived in a small little town called Laguna Vista, which is just on shore from South Padre Island, which is off the coast of Texas.
Right. And after being there for about I think 11 months we were there, we realized that that wasn't the place that we wanted to be long term. There weren't a whole lot of job opportunities for us there. And so we decided that we wanted to move somewhere else.
Right. So I had a friend, my best friend from back in Wisconsin, had moved to the Phoenix area. And I actually went out to visit him. And that's actually when I decided to go back to school to be a vet tech. So I took a trip out to Mesa, Arizona, to check out the school that I wanted to go to and to visit my friend, and decided that that was a place that seemed like there was a lot of opportunity for us there in the Phoenix area. That was in 2001.
Right.
And so we decided to move to Phoenix. So that was actually in the year 2000. And so after I made that trip and we've decided that's where we wanted to live, we actually ended up moving on Thanksgiving Day in the year 2000 to the Phoenix area.
So by the time we got to the Phoenix area, we were about 25 years old. We were both really starting our careers, and we ended up staying there for about 16 years. We really kind of grew up together and became adults together.
Right,
in
it's
the
where we
Phoenix
started our
area.
family. And
Yeah, so we ended up buying 3 separate houses, buying and selling 3 separate houses there, establishing our careers, and that's where we had our girls.
Right. Now, for those of you who don't know, we have 2 daughters. We don't have them in our videos because originally when we started YouTube, we did have them in some of our videos, and we've had some kind of privacy issues. So we've decided as a family that it's best to keep them out of our videos so that they can have their privacy. But we have 2 daughters. Our daughter Grace is our oldest daughter. She just recently turned 18. And then our daughter Samantha, who is 14, she'll be 15 this summer.
Yeah, Grace just graduated high school and she's ready to go off to college at the end of this summer. And Samantha will be a sophomore this year.
Yeah, it's going to be very strange having our first kid move out.
Yes.
It's kind of weird to think that you know, they're growing up that fast. I certainly haven't grown up at all since they've been born, but they're growing up pretty fast. So I guess that's kind of the next step in our lives, is to start having kids move out.
We are often asked whether we homeschool our kids or whether they go to public school. And it may surprise a lot of you that our kids have gone to public school. And, you know, before Kevin and I left corporate America to move here to southern Missouri, we both worked full-time the entire time. So our kids went to public school. And when we decided to leave the Phoenix area and come to the Ava, Missouri area, it's a much more rural environment. We don't live in town. We gave them the opportunity to be homeschooled and stay with us on the homestead, or to go into the public school. And they both 100% wanted to go to public school. They're very social. They're very involved in music, lots of friends. And so that's what they did. They've gone to public school. It's a small school system here. We like the direction that the school is going, and they've done really well here.
Right. To give you some idea of the difference, the school that our oldest daughter Grace was going to before we left Phoenix, the middle school that she was in at that time, had about 5,000 kids just in that middle school. It was, and that was only two grades. It was seventh and eighth grade. Had 5,000 students in that one school. Well, here the classes are about 100 kids or less.
Right.
So, I mean, that was a huge change for her, a very good, positive change. But that was one of the reasons why she really wanted to go to school here, because she wanted to be able to, you know, feel what it was like to go to a much smaller school and get more personal attention.
Right. Now, you guys see our farm animals, our homestead animals all the time. We don't really talk about pets, and if we have pets, we do have pets.
Right.
We actually have 2 dogs. They're house dogs.
Right.
We have 2 beagles.
Right. We have 2 beagles, Bubba, who is our male and is my favorite, and then we have Rosie, who is the female and Sarah's favorite.
Yeah, we love dogs. And through our marriage, we've had different animals. We've had a ferret when we first got together.
Right. Pet rats.
Pet rats. We loved them and actually bred them for a little bit.
Right. When I worked in the animal hospital, I actually worked a lot with reptiles. So there was a time during that time of our lives when I actually had quite a few snakes. I think at one time I had 7 ball pythons, big ball pythons that we were raising in our house. Actually, the room that I used for my snakes ended up in our first house being converted into a nursery when Sarah got pregnant with our daughter. And that was the end of my snake keeping career.
Yep.
So maybe someday I'll have snakes again.
Maybe. I didn't mind the snakes at all.
No, they weren't too bad.
Yeah. We've had, you know, fish. We've had guinea pigs.
Right.
So we've had a lot of different animals. But inside the house these days, just the 2 dogs.
Right.
All the other animals stay outside.
Right. We do have a pretty strict rule for all of the other animals on our homestead or our farm that if they're not providing something back, they're not going to stick around real long because, you know, that's what we do. We raise things for food, and either they're going to be providing us food or they're going to be food, but we're not in the business of just feeding things just to feed them, other than our 2 dogs who probably eat too much because honestly, they don't do anything all day except sleep. Now, another question that we get a lot is, you know, what do we do for fun? Because it seems like we work a lot. And the truth is we do work a lot. But, you know, one thing that we keep reminding ourselves is that, you know, what we do now for a living and for, you know, our lifestyle is really what we used to do for fun. It used to be our hobby was gardening and raising animals and all of those things. And now we do that full time. So even though we're working a lot, we really enjoy what we do. So it doesn't really, I mean, there are times when, you know, like any job, you feel a little overwhelmed or you're burned out. But for the most part, we really love what we do. We get out of bed in the morning excited about being able to do what we do. And really, we wouldn't trade what we're doing for anything.
Absolutely not.
But we do have one other thing that we love to do for fun, and that is go fishing. Both Sarah and I love to go fishing. We don't get to go nearly as often as we would like to. We do have a pond here on the farm. Occasionally we go in the pond. We only catch bluegills that are about that big, but it's still fun.
They'll grow up one day.
But we do get to go to the lake, you know, maybe once a month or so during the summer. And, you know, we're not real close to water here. It's a good hour drive, so it's not always the most convenient, but we try to go as often as we can.
Right. Both Kevin and I grew up fishing as kids, and we absolutely love it. I would go fishing with my dad on Lake Michigan. Kevin and his family fished a lot on the rivers and the local lakes that were there. And actually, when we were dating, we spent a lot of time fishing together.
Right. Actually, when we first started dating, we started dating in the winter, but when it got to summertime, I actually said to Sarah, I said, you know, if you want to spend a lot of time with me over the summer, you're going to have to come catfishing with me at night, because I would spend most of my nights out, you know, along the river just catfishing all night long. So
I loved it.
Yeah, so that's what we did. Those were great date nights, and that's when you know you have a good woman, is when she'll spend the entire night out there, you know, getting dirty fishing with you.
Yep.
So there you go. Now you know more about us than most people do. We don't share things real often. We, you know, like to teach you guys about what we're doing here on the homestead. But sometimes it's nice for you to have just a little more information about who we are, where we came from, and what kind of people we are.
So if you guys liked this and want us to do maybe a video like this again here and there, make sure you let us know. And hey, what else are you guys wondering about us? What questions do you have that are non-homestead related?
Or homestead related, because we do like to do these Q&A type videos about homesteading on occasion as well. So if you have specific questions, let us know.
Yeah, we would love to answer them. So you guys, if you're enjoying our channel in general, make sure that you hit the subscribe button below so that you're notified whenever we put out new videos. Also, really the best way that you can help us here on the homestead is to just share our videos on your social media. If you're liking this video, make sure you give us a thumbs up. That would help us a lot. Until next time, thank you so much for stopping by our homestead and learning a little bit more about us. Take care, and God bless.
God bless.